Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Whoa, Wanda.
Hello, David, and welcome to all of our listeners around the country, around the world, throughout the galaxy. This is the Feeling Good podcast, episode 491. And maybe you teased out that third laughter. If you were that clever of a listener, you must have heard Matt May. Hi, Matt. Our beloved Matt May is joining us.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, David. Oh, it's so good to be back with you.
Yes, it is. It's always great to be with you, Matt, in the present and kind of thinking back
in the future.
Old memories, too.
Yeah, definitely.
In the present, in the past, and in the future. All Matt. That sounds so dumb. But anyway, let me start with.
Pretty lame.
That was so dumb. I regret saying all of that. But
Well, I love you now more and feel better about myself, my own lame statements.
Oh yeah, as we're striving to be imperfect. Let me read this endorsement that you got from Keith, and he wrote, "Hi David, I'm sure you get 100 or even 1,000 emails a day like this, but I'd like to add mine to the pile. I picked up Feeling Great last night, and with a heavy dose of skepticism, I worked the process. And I was amazed to find my skepticism and my resistance melt away by the time I was done. I'm cured. Not really, of course. There's a lot more work to get done, but I'm hopeful that the techniques presented in Team CBT will provide me the path forward. I want to thank you for dedicating your life to this great work. I have become a Team CBT evangelist. I'm telling everyone I know about it. I do feel great. I hope to meet you someday, if only to thank you in person for this wonderful gift you've given to the world. Until that time, I wish you the best. Regards, Keith."
Keith, well, thank you, Keith. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your kind statement. I'm very happy for you and all the progress you made. And then you sent an even cooler email that I got, I think, this morning. This is saying, hey, I relapsed, but I did the relapse prevention training and popped right out of it. Woo-hoo. And I'm back on a high again. And so that was really cool also. So thank you, Keith, and keep up the great work that you're doing.
Yeah, awesome. Well, should we dive into our first Ask David question?
Yep.
So Anonymous asked, can an introvert become more of an extrovert, or are these personality traits fixed and unchanged? Dear Dr. Burns, I hope this message finds you well. I would like to ask you a question regarding personality traits. Some articles suggest that introversion and extroversion are relatively stable characteristics, meaning that an introverted person cannot truly become more extroverted and vice versa, or at least not to a great extent. They also propose that introverts tend to lose energy in social situations and recharge when alone, whereas extroverts gain energy from social interactions. I'm very curious to know your thoughts on this topic. Do you believe an introverted person can become more extroverted? And in your view, is an introvert's need for solitude more of a true need or a want? Thank you very much for your time and for the inspiration your work has provided to so many of us. Warm regards, Anonymous.
Okay, well, I'll let you guys take first shot there.
Well, doesn't this sound like social anxiety?
Introvert versus extrovert? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't claim to be an expert. I think I'm an introvert. when I've taken the Myers-Briggs test, it always shows up as I'm introverted. And I also had pretty bad social anxiety. But when I used David's methods, primarily exposure, and just facing that fear, my fear went away, and I started really enjoying public speaking, and that's why I'm talking to you today. So I think I'm probably at a temperament level, genetically, more introverted, but I've been able to turn that fear into something I really enjoy doing. And I often feel more energized now after one of our sessions when we're talking and hanging out than if I were just spending time on my own. So I don't know if that answers the question. That's just a one person's experience, and I haven't looked at all the science on this. So I'm just speaking for myself.
Awesome answer. What your turn now? But I love what you just said, Matt. Rhonda.
Yeah, me too. Maybe I'm being Pollyanna-ish and overly optimistic, but I think people can change if they choose to, and they have the motivation to put the work in. So if someone says I'm introverted and I don't like it and I want to become more extroverted, then woohoo, let's hop in and go through the team CBT model and pick a specific moment in time when they were feeling introverted and unhappy, and what are the other feelings and what were the thoughts that were driving the feelings, and let's go through the process.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think that's awesome. I think there are, and we maybe mentioned this previously in a podcast, but I remember probably 30 years ago reading a really cool research article that there are certain dogs, pointer dogs, I think, and they can have a gene for homophobia, and homophobia means the fear of humans. And the dogs that have this gene, when they're born, they're instantly afraid of humans. And when they see a human, they cower, they shiver, they hide, they try to get away. And then dogs without this gene, when they are first born, they see a human, they get all excited and wiggle their tails. And certainly that's part of the evolution, too, of wolves to dogs, is that some wolves carried this friendliness gene, and they were more friendly toward humans, and then humans fed them, gave them the leftover scraps, and so they started to become pals of the humans, and over I think roughly 80 years they evolved from wolves into dogs. That's the research story that I've heard. And so certainly there is a genetic component to all of human behavior. But I've had 5 different kinds of social anxiety, pretty severe, like what you say, Matt, public speaking anxiety and social anxiety and performance anxiety. I had, intense fear of having my picture taken or speaking on camera, and all of these things, and I've conquered them, and now love doing what I once could not do. See, I can smile. Hello. Aren't I charming? Elderly but smiling, ready for the grave, but still a ball of laughs. And so that's about it. And we just did. I mean, you can search my website for podcasts. So we just did a 2-hour webinar on 7 exposure techniques for social anxiety. There's tons of things that you can do. It's my favorite topic to treat. It's so easily treatable. But as you say, Rhonda, you have to make a decision. You have to confront your fears, do things that you're going to be afraid of. But it's so cool to overcome social anxiety. And then when people say that people, who are introverts, well, that you've labeled people there. And that's one of the cognitive distortions. There's no such thing as an introvert, you might say. We have a tendency toward greater being, outgoing or ingoing, but that's not something that you are as a human being. So when people say, an introvert can't truly change, and we're going to use some test to find out all of your characteristics and know all about you, well, I think in the first place, most of those tests, are not reliable and have not been validated. But I also think that way of thinking is kind of like cutesy, and I'm so smart, and it's kind of like you could pay a mind reader with a crystal ball to predict your future. I think it's about as valid as that. And if you really want to change, and what time of day did you want to change? Let's get down to something real. What's the time when you were socially anxious and would have liked to have been doing something differently? And then we've got at least, I don't know, in the book Intimate Connections, I have a lot of techniques in there, and in all of my books, when panic attacks. Yeah. So this is a very something you can grow and learn. So let's go on to the next question.
Right. Dear David. Oh, dear Dr. David. I know firsthand how helpful Team CBT can be to address negative thoughts and emotions, but our path to a happier life and to the person we want to be never really ends. Are there any tools that Dr. David may come across that can suggest for someone's growth? Thank you, Steve.
Is this person after growth or happiness?
Growth toward happiness.
Okay. Well, that's that. Fortunately, Dr. Matt is an expert on growth toward happiness and will now reveal the solution.
I think that I would probably ask what was a time of day that he would like to be growing more towards happiness, and that we would get more specific after I understood the question a little bit better. I'm glad that they understand that team therapy can be really effective for addressing negative thoughts and emotions. He might be referring a little bit more to the behavioral model too, that we can address our behaviors as well. But yeah, I see doing team therapy as an ongoing process for myself, kind of like working out. I don't expect to do enough sit-ups at some point where I never have to do any more sit-ups, but for there to be a sort of a continuing process of taking care of myself, both mind and body. And team is the way I do the mind part.
Cool.
So you're suggesting an ongoing commitment to your mental health could bring you to happiness and physical health, like mind, body, spirit.
Yeah, and to really absorb the relapse model that we all drift in and out of enlightenment. And I think that's kind of what the story of Sisyphus was about, that, we wake up back at the bottom of the hill with that heavy boulder on our chest, even after making great progress. And we have to repeat that process again. And team is something that gives us the tools to do that more efficiently. Pulleys, sleds, and levers to get that boulder up the hill faster.
Yeah, well, I love what both of you were saying. I think that when initially in team we're fighting for what I would call full recovery, and that would be, we measure all these negative emotions at the start of the session on a 0 to 100 scale, or shorter test too, but they can be normed from 0 to 100. And how depressed are you? How suicidal are you? How anxious? How angry? How happy and joyous are you? And what's your relationship satisfaction or conflict with people in general, or your partner, or some person? And or if we're using the daily mood log, we're recording negative emotions on a 0 to 109 different dimensions. And the goal is to bring those down as quickly as possible And often in a 2-hour session, we can bring them down all the way to 0 or 5, something just ridiculously low from 80 to 100 level at the start of the session. And that would be called, to my way of thinking, full recovery. And then you've got to do relapse prevention training. But what I was saying is it can go much further than 0. You can go into enlightenment. And that's a really joyous experience where you feel close to people. You don't feel defensive about anything. And as you pointed out so beautifully, Matt, that it's never permanent. We drift in and out of enlightenment, but the tools that got you there the first time will often get you there again after that. So that's one kind of answer, that when you really blow all of your negative thoughts out of the water and suddenly see that they're not true, you can go into this beyond recovery mode of tremendous feeling, just like being born again or death and rebirth experience or something like that. It's the spiritual, mystical side of team or of life as a human being, or however you want to think about it. But so that's one answer. And then another one is to say, take a time that you were unhappy, and I think you were suggesting this, Rhonda, and do a daily mood log and say, what were you thinking and feeling at that moment? Because often you're having a lot of distorted thoughts, and challenging them and then doing the thing that you're avoiding doing can bring you into unexpected happiness. I can remember when I was a psychiatric resident, I ran into a colleague who got me. I had been kind of a coin collector since I was a kid, and he said, "No, where it's really at is world paper money. That's the neatest, most exciting area." And so I kind of got hooked on it a little bit, because you can buy these banknotes from early France or Germany or Africa or Zanzibar or India. And they're beautiful, like from the 1800s or the early 1900s. And he said you can get, things way rarer than coins for a given amount of money, because there's not that many world paper money collectors yet. And so I started kind of collecting them. We didn't have a lot of money, but I think I was still a postdoctoral fellow or something, but we had a little extra money to dabble. And then he said, "Why, David, are you going to go to the International Paper Money Show in Memphis?" Because he said there are dealers there from all over the world. And because we were just shopping from newspapers, like numismatic newspapers, and we'd write to someone in India and buy some, get their price list and buy this world, early rupees or whatever. I can't remember what they call them in India. I think rupees. Yeah. That's right. Paper money. So I said, I don't know. I'll ask Melanie. And I asked Melanie, I said, do you want to go down to this International Paper Money Show in Memphis? And she said, I hate numismatic shows. It just does not interest me, and the kids would be, bored. And she said, why don't you go on your own? And then I had the thought, no, that would be inappropriate. I should always go with my wife. And I felt, kind of trapped. But then I said, well, would that be okay for me to go alone? Like this was some forbidden thing that I wasn't supposed to do. And she says, yeah, you might even enjoy it more if I wasn't there. And so I said, by gum, I'm going to do it. And so I got a plane reservation and flew down to Memphis. And this place was mind-blowing. I had never been to this kind of display before, and it was in a hotel. And there was this big room with all of these dealers from all over the world, and they had these most beautiful, the rarest paper money things you've ever seen. Just knock your eyes out. Of course, you have to like world paper money, but it was just... It was unbelievable, and I had bought some real inexpensive notes from someplace in Africa, and then I thought I probably got screwed on these, so I brought them to the convention, and thinking maybe I could sell a few and get my money back. And actually, dealers started buying them from me. I bought 50 banknotes from Bangladesh or something, brand new, from maybe 30 years old or something. And they all wanted them, and they were paying me twice what I bought for them. And it was just like I probably paid 50 cents a piece for them. But it blew my mind that I was making money by selling these things. And I started getting high. And then I met this guy named J. Roy Pennell, and he was a cement dealer from the South. And he had the most beautiful foreign early banknotes, like proof notes from Bolivia and Guatemala, like for like $50 and $75. And so I bought a couple from him. And then he said, well, I'll show you a really special set. And he showed me a set from India. And my eyes almost popped out of my head because they were like from 1860.
Wow.
And they were like a specimen set, almost in brand new condition, pretty much new condition. And they went from 1 Sikha rupee all the way up to 10,000 Sikha rupees. And these high denomination notes have always been rare because they never printed many because they didn't have much use for them. But I'd never seen any of these notes before. And they were so beautiful. And he said, here, you can walk around with them for a while if you like. He said, I don't know if they're for sale. So I took them and showed them to a British. This is an awfully long story, but it has to do with happiness.
Okay.
And how to find happiness. And I showed them to a British dealer because they were the fanciest dealer at the show. And I said, would you have any interest in a set like this? And when they saw them, like their eyes started popping out of their heads. And they said, how much would you want for them? And I said, well, I'm not sure that, that they're for sale, but, what would you take for them, say, in trade? And they said, well, if you'll fly to London, we'll give you $9,000 in trade.
Wow.
For anything from our inventory. And I tried to play it real cool. I said, okay, I'll think about that. And then I went back to Pennell and said, if you were to sell these, how much do you think you'd sell them for? And he said, it'd be $100 or $200 a note, I think. And I said, well, if you decide to sell them, please make me your buyer because I'd love to buy them. And he says, well, I don't know if I want to sell them, but if you want, you can take them home to Philadelphia with you. And then I'll decide. And if I change my mind, you can just mail them back to me. And I couldn't believe my good fortune. And then I got back to Philadelphia, and he wrote a letter and said, if you like, you can buy them. And it was something like $1,000 for these six notes. But the bottom line is I got so happy at that Newman's paper money show. It was just because I was making 50 cents here and $2 there, but it just blew my mind. And I got so happy I had to leave the floor of the show several times and go out in the hotel lobby to calm down. Like I had happiness beyond what I could tolerate. But it had to do with challenging my distorted thought, a kind of a should. I had myself in a should box. I'm not supposed to go alone to a coin show or a paper money show. And it was just some rule that I thought was in my head. So that's another thing is let's go down to the basics. And this is all about fractal psychotherapy. you can only help yourself at one specific moment. There's no general rules for happiness. That's the kind of horseshit that pisses me off no end. And that makes me happy, too, to get pissed off.
And express it to others.
That's right. And people just want to, philosophize on these abstract levels. Well, here's how you find happiness and blah, blah, blah. And I say, give me a certain time of day when you'd like to feel happier. What day of the week was it? What time of day? Where were you? Who were you interacting with? What was your going on? What were you telling yourself? And there you'll find all of the things that are trapping you and holding you back, as well as how to challenge those things and change your life and experience greater happiness. I don't know if that makes any sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that story too.
It sounds like the happiness was based on a sense of freedom from those shoulds and abundance and gratitude and excitement.
Yeah, and that I was permitted to do something that I wanted to do. Because ever since I was little, I used to go to coin stores. My parents would always say, "Oh, you're wasting your money. How are you going to sell these things?"
That was an interest since childhood?
Yeah. Like they always put me down for, because I used to mow lawns for 50 cents a piece, which was hard. And save up like $5 and then go to a coin show. And I'd say to the coin dealer, "Do you have any coins here that have been sitting in your case for a while, so they've become more valuable than what the sale price that I could buy?" And they would have mercy on me and say, "Well, here's a good one you could buy for $5. But my parents always thought I was like wasting money. And so, I mean,
we're a little angry with your parents for not encouraging that hobby.
No, it was not a little. It was
a lot.
Yeah. I didn't appreciate certain things. I didn't realize, I was annoyed at the time and angry and hurt. But that was part of it. Here I'm doing my thing and it works. But that was just me. That's not a general rule for happiness. The general rule is take a time a day when you're not happy and see what's going on when you'd like to be happier and what are you telling yourself. And all your emotions, positive and negative, result from your thoughts. So see what you're telling yourself. That's where the answers lie.
I love that answer, David. I wanted to pull on the thread that you were hinting at earlier when you asked, is he searching for growth or for happiness? Mm-hmm. Did you want to distinguish between those two, or?
You can. You can. It's a great question.
I only have kind of a vague thought about it that, happiness has something to do with, a sense of, gratitude and abundance and freedom and an absence of those negative thoughts. Growth is more accepting that there are certain kind of hard aspects of life and responsibilities and things that don't pay off in the near term, but only pay off in the long term. When applied regularly. And growth means sort of accepting that and committing to it, those obligations in a way that becomes fulfilling and meaningful in the very long term.
Oh my goodness, Matt.
A colleague recently asked for help with how would I treat a patient with anhedonia, and what techniques would you use for anhedonia, Rhonda?
Thank you for that, for pitching me that lab. We don't throw techniques at people. People are unique. We don't throw techniques at labels or diagnosis, but we take one moment in time where the person was not feeling happy or content, or when they were suffering from whatever they were suffering, and what was the moment in time. And of course, after we've done testing and provided empathy, we go through what else were they feeling when they were feeling unhappy? How much were they feeling unhappy, sad, depressed, alone, rejected, etc.? And then we work with them to discover the thoughts that are driving those feelings. And then we go through the team model. What do those feelings and thoughts say about them that are really awesome and beautiful?
Yeah,
Why would they even want to get rid of them?
Yeah, I love that. We treat the person and not the symptom or the problem. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that I'll disguise this because it's not my patient. I don't have permission or anything like that. But let's just say, let's just say a woman was at a family reunion telling herself, "I should be enjoying this more." And every time she's with the family and the relatives, she beats up on herself because she should be enjoying that, and so she calls that anhedonia and wants a cure for her anhedonia. So how would you cure her, Matt? What you already said, Rhonda, is great.
I spaced out. My mind was on something else just then. Can you give me that setup one more time?
Well, I'll answer the question and but you break you over the coals. But you see, her thought is, "I should be enjoying the family," and she's not. And so that's a should statement. Yeah. And, Albert Ellis often said, well, where the F did you read that you're, obligated to feel happy around family members? And the problem isn't the anhedonia, but the thought about it, the should statement. I was reminded of one of my patients before he was my patient. He went to New York on vacation and was miserable. So he had heard of Albert Ellis. He said, "I'll go have a session with Albert Ellis." And he told Dr. Ellis, "I'm on vacation and I'm unhappy, and I'm telling myself I should be happy because I'm on vacation. I saved up and then Ellis says, "Well, where the F is it written that you're entitled to be happy or obligated to be happy just because you're on vacation?" And he said, "Oh, you mean it's okay to be miserable on vacation?" And Ellis said, "Absolutely." And then he said, "Oh, I'm feeling much better now. I feel happy." He gave himself permission. You see, it wasn't the being unhappy, but the beating up on himself. The answer is in our thoughts and what you're telling yourself.
That's very reminiscent of, I had a patient that I was treating who developed a postpartum depression, was how it was labeled.
Oh, yeah, the same deal.
Same deal, thinking that she was supposed to be joyful and happy as a mom, but she was sleep deprived and miserable, and often felt kind of resentful about it and upset. And was thinking that she shouldn't have those feelings, that those were off limits. And when she was allowed to have the feelings, she recovered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. Thank you for throwing that in there.
It's kind of paradoxical, isn't it?
Yeah. Almost everything in team is paradoxical, by the way. Mm-hmm. Like when the T is paradoxical because we're hoping for failure on the empathy scale, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because then we can talk to the patient and deepen the relationship. And when we're doing a recovery circle, we're hoping to fail as fast as we can. And when we're doing the paradoxical agenda setting, we're giving the patient all the reasons not to change, and so forth. So maybe we should have a podcast on why paradox is so important. But I don't know quite what I would say. But I think we have two more cool questions.
Well, the next one is your question, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, the movie, and then we also have the one about how to identify my feelings. Yeah.
So I saw a question that was circulating about a patient whose father had rejected her, a young girl, and the question that showed up was, what movie should I recommend to her? To my patient whose father rejected her. And I had
How about, let's see, how about the Green Mile?
The Green Mile.
Ordinary people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you had a strong negative reaction to that question, and for good reason, and share your thinking.
Yeah, I was feeling a little bit afraid for that patient. I thought that the chances were really low that there was any movie that could be recommended by someone who'd never met this young girl that would be very likely to help her, and a good chance that there would be messages in a movie, in almost any movie, that could be taken the wrong way and could even cause some harm. And I was thinking, why wouldn't we simply follow the team model to help her, rather than throwing movies at her and expecting that type of non-specific throwing of help to do the very specific work that is required to recover. And I didn't even understand really what the problem was that the patient was wanting help with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. What was she thinking, and why was she upset, and what had gone on with her father, and all of that. But I love what you're saying, because that's one of my pet peeves, and they're all coming out more in my elderly, cranky phase of my life. But it just
I just have to devil's advocate here for 1 second. We have bibliotherapy. Like when people come to team therapy, we often say, read Dr. Burns' book, Feeling Great or Feeling Good, and then do the exercises. And people could recommend other books. So why wouldn't you say, well, why don't you watch this movie and then we could talk about it and see if it brings anything up for you, the way we suggest reading a book?
Well, that's great, Rhonda. And is that how you would work with a patient who was upset because her father rejected her?
No, we're not talking about me. We're talking about this person.
We're talking about you right now.
No, I don't do that.
Why not? Why not?
Because it's meaningless.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a fun thing to watch a movie, but is there any reason that it could work?
Yeah, that reminds me of, these people who think, and some therapists are like this, that they can throw a technique at a patient or throw a method at a patient and help them without testing, without empathy, without paradoxical agenda setting. It just this sickens me and reveals to me how effed up the field is, but I won't say this, because when I say our field is effed up and people are screwed up and they're crappy therapists, people don't like it.
No, people don't.
I don't say that anymore, because I get a lot of
really. You're not saying that anymore?
No. I'm in a self-protective mode. I'm tired of the death threats to me and my family, but. Anyway, that's a neat thing that you brought to us, Matt, and I can understand your strong reaction. It shows, not only what a beautiful person you are, but it just shouts something very simple, that the world needs empathy and understanding, even if you don't have any therapeutic techniques, at least to empathize with somebody. When I created, at one time, the cognitive therapy daily group for the Stanford inpatient hospital. And then once I got it going, I would go in once a week to sit in and make sure that the cognitive therapy was working for those very severe patients, and to teach the nurses and things. And I remember one day I went in, and this... It always works well when you have a patient who's open and vulnerable and asking for help. And this woman opened up the group and said she had just been hospitalized and she was feeling like a totally worthless human being, and she had all these negative thoughts, and she was kind of sobbing uncontrollably. And I was telling myself, this is going to be one hell of a great group, because the others can empathize, and we can, work with her using the team model. And then, as she was crying, a patient, and this will sound uncharitable, and I'm feeling uncharitable, They had just been admitted, and he had, I think, a drug addiction problem. And sometimes I've seen the people with alcoholism or drug addiction be pretty glib, kind of throwing out little clever sayings and things, thinking it's going to help somebody without any empathy. And he told her, and he interrupted her crying and said, you shouldn't feel that way. You're a good person. Mm. And I won't say I felt like punching him in the nose, because that would ruin my reputation. So I won't say that. But if I had felt like that, I definitely would have felt like that, because I wanted to say, shut the F up, you asshole. We've got a good group going here. And, throwing advice at this patient, when the world is hurting, people don't need advice and being told what to do. They need someone to express understanding. Use the five secrets and go with them to the gates of hell. We have this really cool new acronym of what not to do, and I call it PREACH, PREACH. And see if I can remember at least some of the letters, and I'll put it in the show notes. I'll get all 5. But P is don't do problem solving when you're trying to empathize, and then the REACH. The H, the final one, is don't help, and then the C is cheerlead, like that patient in the inpatient group did. Don't cheerlead. Let's see, PR. R is rescue. Don't try to rescue. PREA. Let's see.
A is advise, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't give advice. And then the E is educate. Don't try. Psycho education. That's not the same as psychotherapy. So hey, we got all the letters of PREACH.
Nice.
David, I love your crankiness, and I'm glad I'm not the only one who gets mad and upset at times. Sometimes I feel a little bit embarrassed when I get angry, and so it's nice. I like your authenticity and how genuine you are with those emotions, and I think it says a lot of wonderful things about you.
Yeah, thank you. I think so too.
Yes.
The last question, that was one that you had, Rhonda.
Yes, the last question was something posed to me by a current client who said that they were unable to identify feelings at any given point, and that they literally had to keep the feeling words chart by their side in their pocket or by their phone, so that whenever something came up, if they were talking to someone or something happened and the person they were talking to said, well, what do you feel about that? They would look at the chart and find it. And they wanted to know, how do you identify what's a feeling? How can you tell when you're feeling something? How can you tell what it is?
That's cool. I made a circle to add the feeling words chart to the show notes. So if you're reading the show notes, you might like that chart. A lot of people do. But I'll give my quick answer to it, so we don't go on and on too long on this episode. Is that I don't ever try. See, I think a lot of times when patients say, I don't know how I'm feeling, it's because somebody is saying to them, well, how are you feeling? And then they're getting all kind of tongue-tied and then put on the spot. But if a patient says, I don't know how I'm feeling, I would say, give me a certain time of day that you were upset. Where were you? What was going on? This is the whole fractal idea I keep trying to teach, maybe not successfully as often as successfully as I would like, but to give me a time that you were upset, that you want help, changing how you feel and knowing how you were feeling. And then they'll give me a time of day and then look at, is that a relationship conflict or an individual mood problem? And if it's an individual mood problem, just hand them the daily mood log, and they can write a description at the top of the upsetting event. And then they've got 9 different types of feelings listed right there. And you can say, now let's take this first row here, sad, down, blue, depressed, unhappy. Were you feeling that? And they say, oh, yeah, I was feeling that. And to say, how strong was that from 0 to 100? Oh, that was about 80. And then the next column is anxious, worried, panicky, nervous, frightened. And you just go through those. And I've never had a patient who didn't know exactly how they were feeling in 9 different dimensions and right down to the decimal point. And after they've filled those out, you can say, did you have any other feelings that come to mind? They may say like, oh, I was also feeling overwhelmed. So, okay, add that overwhelmed, and how overwhelmed between 0 and 100. I think that this idea, I don't know how to identify my feelings, is more of an error, a therapist's error, than a problem with the patient. But I would also say there is a condition called alexithymia. I believe that's the word, and that's people who don't know how to express their feelings. But I've never had a patient with alexithymia. I've had a lot of patients who were told by a therapist, you have alexithymia. But once I said, well, what's the time you were upset and what was going on? They never had any trouble. You can just touch the columns with the feelings that you're having, the rows. So I don't understand that one. I don't know, how to identify my feelings. The one exception to that, though, would be the hidden emotion model. Mm-hmm. And that's when people they're anxious, but there actually is another feeling that they're having trouble identifying because they're sweeping it under the rug. Like maybe they're angry with somebody, or they want something they think they're not allowed to want, or that type of thing. And then there's a great class on the hidden emotion technique in the Feeling Great app, which is free to download and sign up for and use. Today, it's free, and you can get a year subscription for free. I don't know how long we're going to be able to keep offering it for free, but then you can take that hidden emotion class. If you're anxious and obsess a lot, there's a good chance that there's a hidden emotion that you're having that you're not aware of, and that's where people are genuinely having trouble identifying some forbidden type feeling. And that class in the Feeling Great app might help you with that, or just get my book, the When Panic Attacks, and you can learn about the hidden emotion technique. Or if you want to do everything for free, the app is free. Go to my website and search hidden emotion technique, and then Rhonda, they'll come up with a lot of good podcasts, I would imagine.
Definitely, absolutely. Yeah.
So.
That's a couple thoughts on that last question, or additions, if that's okay. Do we have time?
We do.
Oh, yes, absolutely, Matt.
Okay. So when people are filling out the brief mood survey, I'll frequently have folks ask me, well, what's the difference between like nervous and worried? Or what's the difference between resentful and angry? And my understanding of that is it's just how you use that word, that you may have never heard the word resentful, but angry was a word that you heard and is part of your vocabulary, and that it's a subjective test, and that one of the reasons there are multiple feeling words listed is to cast a wide net so that we're more likely to detect one of the words that does light up for them.
That's
accurate?
exactly right. It has to do with the reliability of a scale. So, for example, let's say you have a one-word scale for you want to measure anxiety. So you have a scale that says how anxious are you feeling right now? Well, the person might not know what the word anxious means. They might not use that word. So they might put, oops, I'm anxious because my earphones are falling off. My foot is trapped under this cord, And I just freed my feet, and that feels wonderful. But at any rate, let's see what the person might not know what a particular word means. And so if let's say I have a 5-item anxiety scale on the brief mood surveys, and so they might not identify, just put a very little on one of the items, and then another item, scared, they might say, oh yeah, I'm real scared, so they'll put very true, and then frightened, completely true. And so their total scale will have reliability, and the reliability of the scales on the brief mood survey are all over 90%, which is way better than the Beck scales or the PHQ or any of those. And it's because of that redundancy that we're trying to have words that have similar meanings. We're not trying to measure apples and oranges with the same scale. We're trying to measure one construct, and the reliability of the scale is how accurately does this scale measure something. And then the validity of the scale is, does the something it measures, is that what you want it to measure? Like you could have a very reliable scale for ice cream preferences, could be 95% reliable and accurate, but it wouldn't be valid for anxiety. Mm-hmm. Because it's not measuring anxiety, it's measuring ice cream preferences.
Mm-hmm.
When I was hearing this question, I also was thinking about a patient of mine who has a similar experience of not feeling like she has access to her feelings. And it may be coincidental, but she was also the victim of childhood neglect. And I wondered if there just wasn't an adult present to say, oh, I wonder if you're feeling frustrated or angry right now, or if you're feeling sad, that there just wasn't that early language learning or any reward for, emotional awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I love what you're saying, Matt. And that's why in the new version of the app that we're putting together now, we have one of the early, it's a 7-step, onboarding thing, 7 steps to feeling great. And I think the second step, they learn about the Beck's theory of cognitive specificity. Which really helps with that education, that the thoughts of danger create fear, nervousness, worry, panic. The kind of thoughts that trigger each kind of feeling, the thoughts that trigger hopelessness, the thoughts that trigger anger, the thoughts that trigger depression, the thoughts that trigger inadequacy. Telling yourself, I'm not good enough, triggers feelings of inferiority, inadequacy, worthlessness. And I've found that is a beautiful, you can call that emotional intelligence, and a really beautiful way to get people up to speed quickly, to see how the different emotions stem from certain kinds of thoughts, and to become more familiar with your inner emotional and cognitive architecture. It makes it, gives you more like an orchestra with a lot of different instruments, and it helps you understand your own feelings as well as those of other people. It's not the only answer, because to understand the feelings of others, then you have to learn the 5 secrets of effective communication. Mm-hmm. And that's quite an undertaking. It's not trivial, because of all the resistance people have to listening and finding truth in something that angers them. But anyway, I'm babbling, but I hope that's relevant to what you said. It's like, this is the word Eskimo, that's politically incorrect, right? Are they called the Intuits? Mm-hmm. Is that the correct?
Inuits.
Inuits, yeah. Inuits, and they've got, I think, 30 words for snow that they learn from the time they're little, so they can see and recognize all the different, dry, flaky snow and wet, globby snow and icy snow, whatever all the different kinds are. And it's the same thing maybe when you're little, that the learning to the vocabulary of emotions is very important to learning to understand how you feel.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering too if this person is anticipating, well, maybe in a relationship they're feeling attacked or they're anticipating feeling attacked, so they become so anxious that they kind of numb out and they're overwhelmed with their anxiety, and then they can't identify any feeling other than that.
No, that's been shown not to happen.
Okay.
Except 90% of the time, maybe only.
Okay.
But does that happen to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that happens to me.
Yeah.
Does it happen to you?
Definitely,
to me?
Yeah.
Oh, to Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, to both of you.
Tell us. Yeah. I don't know if it happens to me, but I know it happens to you too.
It's that obvious.
But yeah, I think I think conflict phobia is a very common thing. That's for a good question for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a great question. That'd be a great whole podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I'm up for it.
Okay. Well, should we say bye now?
Well, how did it go? Tell us. We always do that after we.
I think it was really well done. I think it was interesting. And David, you were talking this morning and emailing me and Matt about how you were feeling cranky. And I noted that when you feel cranky, you get really funny. You're already pretty funny, but I think I'd say you're like 10 or 15% funnier when you're cranky. Okay. Well, I'll tell you I think that came out.
What you're saying right now really pisses me off.
That's a good example.
Yeah. So
beautiful.
That's a good thing.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm getting permission to be cranky in my old age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please do.
Well, I love you both, and let's evaluate Matt's performance. He wants to.
That's good. I don't want to be left in the dark.
Well, thank you, everybody. We love you all. Keep the questions rolling. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like, but especially let us know what you do like. That was intended humor. And until next week, we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.